Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first story is titled, My Entitled Brother Likes to Steal My Beer. So I bought the worst tasting beer I could find and left it out for him to take. Not long ago, I posted about how my brother went out of his way to follow me when I tried to go camping alone. Him and that crazy vehicle he calls the mini ram that he made by cutting up a minivan and adding all sorts of other mods. My brother has stolen beer from me before on previous camping trips because he and his friends always drink too much and never buy enough. And when he followed me to my camping spot with his own camper a couple weeks prior, he tried to steal a six-pack from my fridge and acted like a big baby when I made him give it back. So I thought up this little gem of an idea. But it was no easy feat, as my brother will drink just about any beer so long as it gets him drunk. To try and find a beer that was truly nasty, I started asking around and buying different brands. After a couple weeks, I hit Pay Dirt. I won't say the brand name of the beer, but it was bad. There was so much hop to the flavor that it made me shudder every time I took a swig. I could barely finish one bottle without puking because it made me gag so much. So this stuff was perfect. Also, I know some people really like that kind of overly hoppy beer. I'm not trying to offend, but to me, it was just horrid. I started openly talking about going camping again in my favorite area, and getting my friends to join in. My brother easily got wind of this, and decided he wanted to go camping too. He showed up with his mini ram and camper about 2 hours after I'd gotten to the campsite. Only this time, he didn't try to park next to me, and instead went to the next spot about 100 yards further down the road. My friends and I partied it up in our own way. Played music, danced like idiots around a fire, played stupid games, all the usual. And knowing my brother, he and his friends would run out of beer at some point and try to mooch off us because they have no concept of drinking in moderation. They didn't bother us on the Friday night. But on Saturday night, around 1 or 2 a.m., my brother hobbled over asking for beer. We all just ignored him like he wasn't there, which made him get an attitude. One of my friends brought his big cooler and was keeping all our good beer and food in it, and we kept the cooler near us or locked in my truck at all times. Inside my camper, I left 2 full six-packs of that horrid beer in the mini fridge. My brother just grabbed them and walked away. He acted like he was being sneaky, but seeing a drunk man act like he was invisible was just hilarious. About a half hour later, my brother came hobbling back and looking sick. He started demanding to know what was in the beer I bought. I started asking him what he meant because I didn't give him any beer. He looked flustered for a moment and then finally just said he took some beer from my camper. I asked if it was the blank brew and he said yes. I laughed and said that stuff was crap and he could have it. I even pulled out another six-pack that was minus the one I drank when I tested the beer and tried to hand it to him. He looked like he wanted to throw up at the sight of it and left. Then, just to be extra petty, my friend and I snuck over to his campsite after a little while and left the remaining six-pack on top of his cooler. He and his friends were all wasted and actually still drinking the nasty beers I tricked them into stealing, and their faces all showed how bad it was. Every time one of them took a swig, it was followed by RBF. But they were so drunk that they probably wouldn't even notice there was more of that same beer. My friends and I watched from nearby as they kept drinking and making sour faces. My brother eventually puked on himself and then ran into the river to get the vomit off himself. He threw up some more in the water. It wasn't a pretty sight, even though we could barely see him in the dark. We could still hear him. He repeatedly threw up with his face in the water and made loud gurgle noises, then cursed my name over and over again. That's when we finally had enough of watching them. I didn't see my brother or his 2 friends again until well into the afternoon. They were all badly hungover. And despite how much they drank, they couldn't forget that nasty beer they had the night before, especially since the bottles were littered all over the ground. My brother actually demanded I apologize, and I just laughed and said, "You actually want me to apologize to you for stealing beer from me?" And then we all started laughing at him. He left humiliated, and we didn't interact again. I drove home before he did this time, and he's not spoken about what happened to our parents, and I've heard nothing from mutual friends. I guess this time he wants to keep his humiliation a secret. I think next time I'll get some beer spiked with laxative to leave for him. That might be funny. The next story is titled, Karen, my neighbor, poisons and attempts to kill my guard dog to gain unauthorized access to my pool safely. Growing up, I always had a love for animals. I grew up in a home filled with pets, dogs, cats, birds, and even a hamster. As I grew older and moved into my own house, I knew that I wanted a pet that could not only keep me company, but also help keep me safe. That's when I decided to adopt a German Shepherd mix named Max. From the moment I brought Max home, he quickly became my closest companion. He was always by my side, and I felt safer knowing that he was always on the lookout. Max was the perfect watchdog, always barking when someone approached the fence, but he never harmed anyone. However, my neighbor Karen had different ideas. Karen believed that just because she had children, she could come onto my property and use my pool without asking. When I told her that she couldn't trespass, she screamed at me and called Max a monster. It wasn't long before Karen started taking matters into her own hands. Max became very sick out of nowhere and I rushed him to the vet. After some tests, the vet found traces of poison in his system. I was devastated but relieved to hear he would recover. When I checked my security cameras, I was shocked to see Karen feeding Max something from a bag. I knew I had to take action. I hired a lawyer and we filed a lawsuit against Karen for trespassing, making false claims to animal control and animal abuse. I wasn't sure what to expect when we got to court, but Karen admitted to everything. The judge was outraged and ordered her to pay my entire vet bill and complete community service at an animal shelter. The news of Karen's actions quickly spread throughout the neighborhood and she became an outcast. Although justice was served, it was hard not to feel uneasy knowing what Karen had done. I made sure to always keep an eye on Max and installed more security cameras around my property. A few months had passed and I was beginning to feel like things were finally settling down. I was sitting in my living room reading a book when I heard a loud crash. I ran outside and saw that Karen had crashed her car into my fence, attempting to break in once again. This time, she was carrying a bat and a knife. I immediately called the police, but I knew I had to act fast to protect Max. I grabbed my phone and my pepper spray and ran to the backyard. When I got there, I saw Karen attempting to climb over the fence. Max was barking louder than ever before, trying to protect our home. Karen saw me and charged at me with the bat. I sprayed her with the pepper spray, but it didn't seem to faze her. She swung the bat at me, but I was able to dodge it. In the commotion, Max managed to get loose from his leash and jumped on Karen, biting her arm. The police arrived just as Karen was trying to free herself from Max's grip. They arrested her and charged her with attempted assault, breaking and entering, and possession of a weapon. I was shaken, but I knew that Max had saved my life. In the end, Karen was sentenced to 10 years in prison for her crimes. Max was hailed a hero and even got his own segment on the local news. I was grateful for his protection and I knew that I would always be safe with him by my side. The next story is titled, Neighbor Moves After I Install a Camera. I live in a semi-detached house and share a driveway. When I first moved in, an older British couple lived next door. I got along with them great, then the wife passed and the husband moved to an apartment and sold the house to someone I will call Cece. Initially, there were no issues with Cece, but sometimes she did things that annoyed me. However, for the most part, I was able to ignore her and her extended family. On one occasion, I found the roof of my spouse's car dented after it was left on the street. On another occasion, I found damage to my spouse's car, and the easiest explanation was if someone backed out of Cece's driveway without looking. I didn't have any firm evidence, just circumstantial evidence. So, I installed a camera, no audio, just video, on my garage that looked out over the shared driveway and the street. I then went and told all my neighbors about the damage to the car and the new camera. Nobody verbalized any concerns and nobody admitted to the damage. By the end of the next week, Cece listed her house for sale and it closed quite quickly, and I had a new neighbor. Now, Cece was a realtor and should have known the law about vacating her old house, but she was still making trips with her stuff long after the new owner showed up. Cece ended up suing the new owner because she had left stuff behind that she was trying to recover. On one morning, as I was leaving for work, I saw the legal papers on the windshield of the new owner's car, so I made a point of asking about them. This is when I learned about all of the drama and the ongoing issues. The new owner indicated that they were going to have to document everything to defend themselves in court. This is where the petty revenge came in. I asked if the new neighbor wanted video footage. I provided footage of multiple loads of furniture being moved past the deadline. I provided footage of Cece's sister sneaking across my property to try and serve the new neighbor, and then illegally leaving the paperwork on the car. I also provided footage of Cece driving by at random times. With the footage that I provided, the case was awarded to my new neighbor that had to countersue Cece. The next story is titled, Hold Up the Elevator on Each Floor. Enjoy stopping unnecessarily on a bunch of floors on your way down. So, yesterday I was returning home with a heavy bag of groceries. As I approached my apartment building, I saw a delivery man with parcel trolley waiting at the door. I decided to open it for him so he could get in while I checked my mailbox. As I entered the building, I heard him get on the elevator. He must have heard me enter the building as well, but he didn't bother to hold the lift for me. No big deal, I'll just wait for it to come back down. The elevator stopped on the 4th floor, and I noticed it stayed at the 4th floor for a lot longer than it normally should, almost like it was stuck. After a moment, it started moving, except instead of going down to me, it was going up, and stopped at the 5th floor. Again, it was stopping for an unusually long time. It was at this point I realized the courier must have been holding up the elevator doors with his trolley, so they couldn't close, meaning the elevator won't move on. Annoyed because I have a heavy bag of shopping, I live on the 7th floor, and we only have one elevator, I was even more incensed when I saw the elevator carry on going further up and holding at other floors. At this point, I'd been waiting a good couple of minutes, so I decided to take the stairs to the 7th floor. However, I ran as fast as I could. Why? Because the elevator was coming down from the 16th floor, and on my way to the 7th floor, I pressed for the elevator on each floor I passed. If he enjoyed holding up the lift, he could spend extra time in them on the way down. I waited in the stairwell and listened to the elevator stop on my floor, doors open, doors close, stop on the 6th, and so on. When it hit the 5th, I could just about hear the courier say, "For duck's sake," as he realized no one is getting on the elevator. I was out of breath and had a good sweat going on, but it was worth it in the name of pettiness. The next story is titled, "Karen Wants to Buy My Nintendo Switch with My PayPal Included." A little bit of background to the context, I was selling my Nintendo Switch and I made it very clear I was not sending it through the mail. It breaks a lot here. It was listed for around 300 USD with games, a bag, and an SD card, around 50 USD. It's also translated from another language, so spelling might not be the world's best. Karen: "Hi, Mr. 16, I see your Nintendo is for sale." Me: "Yes, it's still for sale." Karen: "Great, I'd like to buy it for $150 US with shipping and all accessories." Mr. 16: "First of all, I'm not sending it. Second, $150 US is way too low. $300 US is the lowest I can go." Karen: "But I need it." Yes, she wrote that. Mr. 16: "Not really my problem. I'm not in a rush to sell it." Karen: "Fine, I'll do $300 US with your account password linked." Mr. 16: "That's not gonna happen. First of all, I'm not shipping." Karen: "But if I need to come pick it up, I want your account as well. And it better be linked to PayPal." Mr. 16: "So, let me get this straight. You want, for $300 US, to come here, get the Switch, and my account together, with my PayPal?" Karen: "That's right. Since I have to drive an hour, it's the least you can do." Mr. 16: "Haha, nope, never going to happen. You know what? I'll give it for free to my brother, or see if another person will come buy it." Karen: "But I need it." Mr. 16: "Bye." Blocked. The last story is titled, "Guy Potentially Ruined His Life for Telling Me to Kill Myself." I'm not entirely sure how correct this story is for this subreddit, but it might fit. I work for an IT company that does tech support. We receive calls for help, we try to help. This guy called up asking for help to remove a piece of software that required administrator rights. Pretty standard, nothing special. However, the computer he was requesting help with was his own personal computer. Obviously, we don't have any access or control over random people's computers. I have zero way I can help him without the admin account, and he said he doesn't know the account. The software was some kind of parental management software that restricts him from doing things. This guy is in his early 20s. I know this because we can see the details of the people that call us on our system. So, kind of hilarious he has this software installed. Anyway, after I tell him that I cannot help him, he ends up telling me that I work for a trash company and that I should kill myself. I don't even respond, and he hangs up the phone. Now, obviously the calls are recorded, and I'm not going to just ignore what just happened. I tell my manager the story, he listens to the phone call. My manager then calls the liaison for the company he called from. They find out that this guy is an intern at that company. He now no longer works for the company. During the call, they decide to get the CEO on the phone and tell him what happened. Shortly after that call, the CEO lets us know that he called the university that the guy is currently going to. The university has now dropped him from all his classes. This guy has now lost his intern job and lost his placement in university, all because he told me to kill myself on the phone. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.